Forbidden Zone. Ironwood was a small, mostly forgotten village in the northeastern United States. To its north stretched a dark, dense forest that locals called the Black Forest. The name wasn't random. The woods were always shadowy, even in daylight. Sunlight barely pierced through its thick pine canopy. The forest's most infamous feature? The whispers. No one could say where they came from. In the village, an old proverb was often repeated. When the Black Forest calls, there is no return. October 2023. Ashley Brooks, a 24-year-old investigative journalist focused on mythology and unsolved disappearances, arrived to uncover the truth. This time, I'm not just writing a blog, she told her followers. People don't just get lost, something takes them. But Ashley didn't know. This time, the forest noticed her too. The old letter and the hidden diary. On the outskirts of the village, in a decaying post office shack, Ashley found a rusted box. Inside was a soot-stained letter from 1956, written by a woman named Janet Harris. In the letter, she described how her husband, Tom, had gone into the forest and never returned. The final lines chilled Ashley. The voice called him. It whispered his name. Tom looked back, and that was the last I saw of him. Alongside the letter was a moldy journal. Tom had written it himself. The last entry read, "There used to be no voices in the woods, but lately they've been whispering my name. It sounds like a woman, but it smells like rot and damp earth. I must follow it." Ashley shivered. The feeling of dread didn't stop her. It only made her more curious. She decided to enter the forest at dawn. The forest is not still. Ashley entered the forest under soft morning light. She carried a GPS, a compass, cameras, and supplies. But within minutes, her GPS failed. The compass spun aimlessly. Everything grew silent, not peaceful but watchful. Above her, an owl flapped its wings. Then a soft, drawn-out whistle echoed through the trees. A chill ran down her spine when she realized. S.H. Lee. It was saying her name. Panic fluttered in her chest. She wanted to turn and look, but the old man, Walter Carlson, had warned her, if the voice calls, don't look. But human nature is weak. Ashley half turned, shielding her eyes, and saw a shadowy figure between the trees. It didn't move. Dressed in ragged clothes, its head hung low. Then the whistle came again, and the figure began to lift its face. Ashley ran. The road that doesn't return. She ran without stopping. But the deeper she went, the more the forest seemed to circle her. She kept passing the same moss-covered stone, the same tree with a faded ribbon. The woods were playing tricks. They wouldn't let her go. Finally, exhausted, she stumbled upon an old shack, barely standing. Its roof sagged, its windows shattered, but the door hung open. On the wall inside, a message written in something that looked like BLO. Ut. The whistle is a trick. The voice is a tra. P. She stepped in. The air was heavy. An old reel-to-reel recorder sat on a dusty table. She pressed play. A distorted voice S. Poke. They always call. Always. It sounds like a woman, but it isn't. I don't know what it wants, but if you answer, it takes. You. Then the door slammed shut. Outside, the whistle started again. The forest's hidden eye. Nightfall crept in. Ashley couldn't stay in the shack. Something was watching. From the window, she saw it. The shadow figure again. But this time, it wasn't alone. Others moved among the trees, blurry, slow, wrong. They said nothing, but the whistle grew louder, overall. Apping. Ashley. Come. Ashley dove out the window, scraping her shoulder, heart pounding. She had to escape, but the trees seemed to move around her, reshaping the path, sealing her in. Then she reached a clearing she hadn't seen before. In the center, a perfectly round, glassy pond swirling with fog. In the mist, she saw something. Herself, but not quite. The figure in the fog wore a dark cloak, her face but not her eyes. Others stood behind it, waiting silently. Then the reflection in the me. SD spoke. Here, sound comes first. If you speak the final word, you become par. T of us. Ashley screamed, and the forest swallowed the sound. The voice beyond the fog. Her scream echoed through the trees, but no one answered. The sound died in the branches, as though the forest itself absorbed it. The fog thickened over the pond, hiding the figures. But the whistle didn't stop. It was soft, feminine, but it came from somewhere deep and terrible. Ashley began to run again, pushing past branches and roots. But the trees were different now. They leaned in. Their bark pulsed faintly like breathing. Each step felt watched. Then she heard a whisper. Behind her, the path is in the sound. If he can hear you, can leave. Ashley spun around. No one. But there on the ground, a silver thread, glowing faintly, stretched into the forest. She had no choice. She followed it. The recorder's answer. The thread led her to another cabin. But unlike the others, this one was intact. Clean. Recently used. Inside, it was furnished. The thread led straight to a tape recorder sitting on a desk. Ashley pressed play. A man's voice cracked, cled through. If you're hearing this, then I'm still with you in the forest. I'm Tom Harris. If you want to escape, there's only one way. You have to forget who you are. Ashley froze. This was the voice of the man from the 1956 letter. He sounded alive, like he had just spoken. On the cabin wall, another message. If you can't speak your true name, the voice won't know you. If it doesn't know you, it won't let you pass. Her true name? Wasn't it Ashley? Among the soulless. The forest was changing. Outside, Ashley saw them. Not shadows, people, or what remained of them. Their bodies stood stiffly, heads bowed, motionless. One wore a tag around the neck, 1959. Another, 1978. They were the lost ones. All of them who'd entered and never returned. Ashley's eyes welled with tears. These people had followed the whispers, just like she had. Now, they were empty vessels. Then one of them looked up. Its mouth didn't move, but Ashley heard the words. You'll join us if why? Oh, you stop running. She fled again. But as she ran, she began to understand. The only way out might be to listen to herself. The name she forgot. Ashley's legs trembled as she ran, her breath sharp in her throat. Every tree looked the same. Every root seemed designed to trip her. But it was the voice, that whisper wrapped in wind. The T truly hunted her. You don't belong here unless you. Give us your name. The words rang inside her skull, but not from outside, from within. The voice was beginning to echo in her own thoughts. She remembered the message in the cabin. If you cannot speak your true name, the voice will not know you. If it does not know you, it will not let you pass. Ashley stopped. What was her true name? She had always gone by Ashley Brooks, but that wasn't the name on her birth certificate. As a child, she had gone by Lena, her middle name. Her mother used to call her Lena in a soft, secret voice when tucking her in, but she had dropped that name after the divorce when her father left. She had forgotten. That part of herself. Was that W? Had the forest meant? She whispered it, trembling. My name is Lena. The wind stopped. The forest fell dead silent. And for the first time, the voice replied, but it didn't sound distant anymore. It's so. Undade, right behind her. Now we see you. The mirror tree. The stillness was unbearable. The silence pressed on her ears like deep water. Ashley. No, Lena. Took slow steps backward, afraid to turn. She finally dared to glance over her shoulder and saw a tree she hadn't noticed before. Its bark was dark and slick, but what struck her was that it reflected her face. Like a mirror, her terrified eyes stared back at her from the wood. She reached out. Her hand touched it, and the bark gave way. She was pulled through. It wasn't violent, but it wasn't gentle either. Her vision twisted. Light bent and vanished. When she opened her eyes, she was standing in the same forest, but it was completely different. Everything glowed a faint blue. The trees moved slightly, breathing with life. And the silence? It was alive too. She was no longer in her world. A figure appeared in the distance. Not shadowy this time. Human. A man, tall and aged with dirt stay. Net hands and tired EY. Tom? She whispered. He nodded. I've been here 67 years, he said. Time is different. Names are different. I forgot mine for a while. T's how they keep us here. What are they? She asked. They are echoes, Tom said. They have no faces. They have no names. so they steal ours. And suddenly, behind him, several pale-faced figures stepped into view, whispering her name again. The echoes. They weren't monsters in the traditional sense. No claws, no teeth, just figures, human-shaped but without identity. Their skin was ash gray, stretched and empty, their eyes hollow like blown glass. And they whispered, Lena, Lena. Ashley, come closer. She stepped back instinctively. But Tom put a hand on her shoulder. Don't run. Running gives them reason. They're not PH. Y. Cycle. Unless you make them re. Hey, Ed. What does that mean? She asked. They exist because of fear. The more you fear, the more they become. They. Re not ghosts. They're stolen voices. The echoes surround. Ed them, but didn't. Hey. Approach. They waited. So what do? We walk, he said. T. Oh. The hollow tree. That's W-H-E. Re they began. Why haven't you gone there? Tom looked away. Because I was afraid. Ashley's heart raced, but she knew one thing. If she didn't end this, she'd never leave. So they walked through a dreamlike forest that shifted with every thought. The hollow tree. They reached it by dusk. A giant, blackened oak stood in the middle of a circular clearing. Its trunk was wide enough to fit a car. Its branches were brittle and jagged like broken arms reaching skyward. But the strangest thing, the inside of the tree was glowing, like a lantern filled with fog. Tom hesitated. This is where the first voice came from, where the forest was cursed. Lena stepped forward. Cursed? Tom explained that in 1863, a woman was buried alive under this tree. Her name was Miriam Wolfe. Accused of witchcraft, she was tortured, her tongue cut out, and left to die UND. Or the roots. Her voice never stopped speaking. They thought killing her would silence her, Tom said. But voices powerful things. She became something more. Inside the tree, Lena heard the whis. Per grow louder, mo. Urgent. Not angry. Lonely. Help me, it said. She looked at Tom. I think she's trapped, and I think we can set her free. The burial. The ground near the hollow tree was soft, as though it had recently rained, even though the sky had stayed dry. Lena and Tom began to dig, using branches and bare hands, scraping away dirt beneath the gnarled roots. CH layer they pulled away. Ade, the whisper clearer. Why are you helping me? Because you were forgotten. Lena said aloud, and they turned you into a curse. Finally, they struck something, not bone but cloth. A dress, torn and buried, but unmistakably human. Underneath it, a skeleton, bound by iron chains, still locked. Tom dropped to his knees and whispered, I'm sorry. You didn't deserve this. He opened the rusty lock. The wind howled. The forest shuddered. From the tree, a figure of fog emerged. Not terrifying, but graceful. A woman in tatters, with no mouth, but with eyes full of grief. She hovered over the bones, touched them gently, then turned to Lena. You remembered me, the voice said in her mind. So I give your name back. Lena gasped. The voice within her vanished. The cleansing. The hollow tree began to burn. Not with fire, but with light. Golden white mist poured from its bark, filling the clearing. The echoes screamed, but not in pain, in release. One by one, the faceless shadows melted into the ground, leaving only silence. Tom stared in dispel. She's gone. But the forest began to tremble again. We awakened something else, Lena said. The curse was lifted, but beneath the curse was something older, something that had fed on the curse all these years. The land began to crack. Roots twisted unnaturally. The very shape of the trees warped, as though the forest was shedding a skin and revealing its true form. They had to leave, but the forest would not let them. The true forest. The air turned thick and electric. Every tree began to pulse. Not breathe, throb like a massive, ancient heart. Lena and Tom ran, but no matter which way they turned, they ended up back at the hollow tree, or what remained of it. From the ground, something began to rise, black as tar and massive. A figure. No face. No features. Just presence. It's too tall as the trees. And when it spoke, the forest bent. You freed the voice, but not the silence. The silence is me. Tom screamed. He collapsed, unable to move. Lena tried to pull him up, but it was no use. The being raised a hand, and the light around them dimmed. You cannot leave. You are sound, and I am hunger. Lena took a final breath and screamed not in fear, but in defiance. The figure flinched, song against the silence. The sky above the clearing dimmed to a bruised purple as the formless giant, the silence, towered over Lena and the paralyzed Tom. Its presence pressed against her eardrums like deep-sea pressure. Every breath rasped, swallowed by the void between heartbeats. Instinct said run, but every loop of nightmare had proven that flight only fed the forest hunger. Instead, Lena remembered a lullaby her mother used to hum when storms rattled their Vermont farmhouse. A simple, wandering melody with no words, just soft vowels that rose and fell like a cradle on calm waves. She opened her mouth and let the tune spill out. At first the notes shuddered, half strangled by fear. Then the melody steadied, weaving through the clearing. Leaves rustled in countertime. The hollow trees' dying glow flared, as though recognizing the human music that had once soothed children to sleep. The silence recoiled. Its silhouette rippled, and its edges bled away like ink dropped in water. Where its chest should have been, an empty keyhole gaped, an absence longing to be filled. Lena kept singing. She wrapped her arms around Tom, shaking him, forcing the sound into his frozen world. Bit by bit, sensation returned to his limbs. His fingers twitched, then clutched her sleeve. The ground trembled. Roots uprooted themselves and whipped toward the pair. But the lullaby's cadence carved a narrow corridor, a temporary refuge inside the storm of unsound. Tom whispered hoarsely, "Don't stop, it can't anchor to live notes." They staggered toward the corridor's far end, toward an overgrown logging road Lena had glimpsed earlier in daylight, while the silence bellowed in a thunder that contained no pitch at all. The melody faltered only once, when Lena coughed blood into her palm, but Tom caught the song mid-phrase, humming the next bars in a broken baritone. Two human voices, imperfect but honest, braided together. The keyhole in the giant's chest cracked like dry earth. With one final dissonant shriek, the silence collapsed in on itself, folding into a sliver of black glass that clattered to the forest floor. The night air rushed back, alive with chirps and wind and distant owls. Lena and Tom didn't look back. They followed the fading glow of Tom's pocket flashlight down the ancient road, hearts drumming an uneven counterpoint to the lullaby that still rang in their heads. The keeper of broken maps. Fog crawled along the rutted track, muffling their footfalls. The road, once used by 1920s loggers, curved deeper into the North Ridge, where squat stone fences hinted at forgotten homesteads. Tom leaned heavily on Lena's shoulder. Decades trapped in the echo realm had aged his spirit, even if time bent strangely around his flesh. After an hour, they glimpsed yellow lantern light wobbling ahead. A shingled cabin emerged, patched with tin, roof sagging under moss. On the porch sat Walter Carlson, the 90-year-old villager who'd warned Ashley before her first excursion. He held a coil-bound notebook and an oil lamp. "You came through the mirror tree," Walter rasped, eyeing Tom as though beholding a ghost. "Never thought I'd see you again." Inside, the cabin walls were plastered with maps, hand-drawn over 7 decades, tracing every anomalous ring of Ironwood forest. Dead zones where compasses spun, pockets where time dilated, clearings where livestock went mad. Walter pointed to the largest chart, where a charcoal blot marked the hollow tree. "That's the wound," he said. The silence oozed out whenever Miriam Wolf's spirit was tormented. You freed her voice, but the silence found new meat. It's starving now, which makes it thrash. Tom sank onto a cot. It solidified tonight, shattered when Lena sang. Walter's brows knitted. Pieces of silence are seeds. If one lodges in living flesh, it breeds more void. Lena set the obsidian shard on Walter's desk. Its surface pulsed faintly, like a dark star. "No ordinary fire will kill it," Walter warned. The only fire that harms nothingness is memory burned true. He produced a steel dictaphone, 1940s vintage, filled with spools of local testimonies, lullabies, wedding vows, deathbed confessions. Voice is memory, he said. We'll need a pyre of stories. But the shard trembled, as if hearing them. A hairline crack split the wood beneath it. We don't have long, Linus said. Where's the nearest place beyond the forest boundary? Walter traced a finger toward Raven's Bridge, a rotting trestle spanning the chasm at Ironwood Gorge. Cross that, and you're outside the forest rule. But the silence knows that too. Outside, something heavy lumbered through saplings. Footfalls crushed cedar. The forest was sending newer echoes, creatures stitched from stolen shapes, hunters for the shard. The gorge of reflections. They left before dawn. Walter packed kerosene, the dictaphone, and his lifetime of annotated charts. Tom carried nothing but resolve. Lena kept the shard wrapped in velvet inside her backpack, feeling its icy heartbeat through every layer. The trek to Raven's Gorge took 3 hours. Mist filled the ravine, hiding its depth. The bridge loomed, a skeletal lattice of iron rails and warped planks, slick with decades of rain. Many boards were gone, leaving ribs of metal exposed like a carcass in the fog. Midspan, the bridge's girders were studded with shards of glass hammered in like mirror fragments. Local lore claimed they were protection spells left by runaway mill workers. But today the shards shimmered with images, not reflections of Lena and Tom, but alternate memories. In one, Lena stood with both parents alive, teenage braces shining as they camped by Lake Champlain. In another, Tom danced with Janet beneath July fireworks, suit pristine, 50 years unlost. The visions slowed their steps. Guilt and yearning thickened the air. The silence exploited hesitation. Echo creatures surfaced on either bank, elongated silhouettes with mouths where eyes should be, keening a single off-key note. Walter hissed, "Don't look." But Tom's gaze lingered on Janet's reflection, tears carving channels in grime. One echo sprang onto the railing, limbs staccato, head twisting impossibly. It lunged. Steel shrieked. Tom grappled it, but contact with its hollow flesh siphoned color from his skin. Lena hurled a lantern. Kerosene blossomed, fire-consuming fog. The creature writhed, turned translucent, then burst into cinders of cold ash. The shard in Lena's pack went scalding hot, as though offended by flame. She staggered, nearly pitching over broken slats. Walter pulled her back. On the far side, a boundary stone jutted, lichen-covered granite etched with a date, 1763. Crossing it, they felt air lighten, sound regain natural echo. Yet the shard's pulse quickened. The silence knew their escape route. Shelter of 7 voices. Beyond the gorge, the landscape became rolling farmland reclaimed by spruce saplings and knotweed. The trio reached an abandoned Quaker meeting house ringed by wild black-eyed Susans. Its windows were boarded, but sun rays speared cracks, illuminating dust like golden snowfall. Inside, oak pews were stacked and warped. A dais held a wooden ark labeled Liber Ex Vocibus, the Book of Voices. Walter opened it. Inside lay dozens of wax cylinders, phonograph needles, reel cassettes, generations of Ironwood families preserving baptisms and funerals, lullabies and legends. "Here we'll make the pyre," he declared, each recording a wick. "We'll melt the shard's hunger in a bonfire of living memory." Tom's face, however, was gaunt. The bridge encounter had drained him. Lena saw shadows inhabiting his veins, like ink ebbing toward his heart. The shard wanted him. It recognized the man who had once tried to follow its call. Night fell. They arranged the recordings in a circle, lanterns between. Lena positioned the shard at the center atop a copper plate. She flicked on the dictaphone. Voices from 1942 filled the hall. Wedding applause, a mother's "I love you, sweet pea." Wax cylinders crackled to life on an antique Edison machine, layering hymns with frontier tales. Tapes spilled raw confessions. Walter at age 10 admitting he'd stolen peach preserves. The silence slammed against the meeting house walls. Rafters groaned. Glass shattered. Echo creatures oozed through knotholes, shapes knitted from burlap, deer skulls, and broken flutes. The forest vomiting its stolen voices to reclaim what was being burned. Lena fed the fire with more reels. The air inside shimmered gold. The shard screamed, high enough to bleed her ears, then split, fissures glowing cobalt. But Tom convulsed. Darkness licked from his eyes and mouth. He collapsed, clutching Lena's wrist with cold fingers. "Let it take me," he gasped. "I'm half gone anyway." Lena refused. She dragged him behind the pews while Walter stoked the blaze until the roof timber smoked. But the silence folded space, opening a rift above the altar, a pupil of night. It inhaled the blaze itself, swallowing music and flame together. Darkness poured down like liquid math. The shard refused, whole again, triumphant. And Tom was gone, pulled upward into the rift, swallowed without a cry. Inside the unworld, Lena dove after him. The world inverted, gravity unstitched. She fell upward through a tunnel woven of reversed heartbeats and backward syllables. When she landed, there was no color, only textures of gray, lit by unseen moonlight. The trees here were bone white, their branches forming cathedral ribs. Ahead, Tom knelt before a throne of roots fused into humanoid shape. The silence, now given form, sat on that throne like a monarch of negation. A crown of broken instruments circled its blank head. A cloak of dead languages trailed across the ashen soil. "You broke my cage," it said, voice layered like reverse thunder. "Now I must weave another." Lena stepped forward, every limb shaking but determined. "You're not creation. You're absence. Absence can't weave, only devour." The silence extended a hand, palm a vortex of emptiness. "All things sing, girl, even stars. When they cease, I drink. When you forget your name, I feast. Give me yours forever, and I'll let the man go." Tom struggled against invisible bonds. "Don't." Lena met the silence's hollow stare. Then she opened her backpack and produced her portable field recorder, still intact. She pressed record and began to speak. She told her mother's lullaby story, her first heartbreak, the shame of abandoning her birth name, the thrill of discovering truths. With each confession, the recorder's meter peaked, redlining. Words blossomed into shapes, vivid ribbons twisting around the throne, impossible colors bleeding into the gray dimension. The silence recoiled as color returned. It tried to drown her words with hurricane gusts, but speech became light. Tom's chain snapped. He crawled behind Lena. She kept talking. Every memory, every regret, every dream whispered into the recorder. The device smoked, but it contained. For absence cannot devour narrative once it is given form. The silence lunged, just as the recorder's battery ruptured, releasing a sunburst of captured sound. The throne shattered. The crown exploded into copper shards. The entity held a null tone that cracked the sky, then shattered into ash. Tom seized Lena's hand. Gravity returned. They fell, no, rose, back through the tunnel of reversed heartbeats, toward the smoldering meeting house. Ashes of the nameless. They crashed onto warped floorboards amid embers. Dawn light spilled through holes in the roof. The silence was gone. Echoes outside wailed once, then disintegrated like sand and wind. The shard lay dark and inert. Walter, bruised but alive, limped over and smashed it beneath an iron mallet. It powdered effortlessly, tiny motes vanishing like burnt sugar. Tom coughed, voice ragged but free of shadow. I remember everything." He wept, both in grief for lost decades and relief at being whole. Walter placed the cracked dictaphone near Lena. "Your recorder burst, but the memories are still yours." They gathered the surviving tapes, cylinders, and ashes, placing them in the Liber Ex Vocibus Ark. Walter proposed sealing the meeting house and letting the forest heal without extermination. Absence thrives when it's fed. If we honor stories, it stays starved. But another problem lingered. Tom's body was 70-plus years out of its rightful era. His fingerprints belonged to a man declared dead long ago. And somewhere in state archives, Janet Harris remained a widow on paper. Lena squeezed his hand. We'll write a new record, she said. Truth heals too. Part 22. Letters to the Living. Back in Ironwood Village, ambulances and state police descended. Lena gave a statement, heavily edited, to authorities. She'd found an elderly hiker lost in old logging territory. Tom, overwhelmed, stayed silent, nodding. Walter quietly supplied local history to officers, painting Tom as a reclusive relative. Small-town sympathy filled in gaps. No one questioned too deeply. The Black Forest folklore was deterrent enough. Weeks passed. Lena typed her article series, Echoes Without Faces, for the magazine Frontiers Unseen. She omitted supernatural specifics, focusing on human costs of forgotten tragedies. Miriam Wolf's wrongful execution, missing villagers from 20th century logging camps, generational trauma. The pieces went viral. Ironwood County Commissioners approved funds to designate the Black Forest a protected historic site with controlled access. Tom stayed in Walter's spare room, adjusting to smartphones and streaming television. Some nights, he woke screaming, but gradually the lullaby Lena taught him replaced the whistle in his dreams. One afternoon, a certified mail envelope arrived for Tom, forwarded from a distant great-niece who'd been researching ancestry. Inside was Janet's handwritten journal, found in an attic. Its last entry, if Tom ever returns, let him know I kept his name alive. Tom read until sunset. He wept again, but the weeping was soft, a river finding ocean. The day the whispers ceased. Early autumn painted Ironwood gold. Forest rangers erected information kiosks near Raven's Gorge, panels about logging history, indigenous folklore, and a plaque for voices lost and found. Lena spoke at the dedication, her voice steady though hands shook behind the podium. As guests dispersed, she walked alone to the hollow tree clearing, now a mound of fertile earth dotted with violet asters. Birds nested in branches overhead. No unnatural shadows lurked. She closed her eyes, listening. Ordinary wind rustled needles. A woodpecker drummed. Far off, a brook gurgled. The unnatural whistle was gone. When she opened her eyes, she saw Tom under a maple, cane in hand. He smiled, looking every bit his age, but wearing a new wool coat. I wanted to say goodbye where it began, he said. Where will you go? Janet's hometown. Pay respects. Maybe teach school kids about forest safety. Lena hugged him. Write me, only if you promise to keep singing. They parted beneath drifting leaves, two survivors stitched together by shared sound. Echoes in print. 3 months later, Lena's book, Whispers in the Pines, How Stories Saved Us, hit shelves. Reviews praised its fusion of investigative journalism and memoir. She toured libraries, voicing chapters aloud. Audiences often cried when she reached the lullaby passage. During a radio interview, the host asked, "Do you still hear things when you close your eyes?" Lena answered honestly, "I hear everything now because I listen, but the forest's dangerous hush? No, that died the day we remembered a forgotten woman's name." Sales spiked. A documentary crew sought film rights. Lena negotiated that 20% of profits fund oral history projects nationwide, recording elders before their memories fade. At night she dreamed, but the dreams were gardens of color, not voids. In one she saw Miriam Wolf, free and radiant, tending saplings where the hollow tree once stood. Miriam whispered not Ashley or Lena, but simply, "Thank you." Lena woke smiling, notebook filling with fresh tales. Part 25. Coda Beneath a New Moon. Winter's first snow dusted Ironwood when Lena returned for a final chapter. She hiked the main trail, now boardwalked and marked, past interpretive signs quoting her own prose. At the memorial stone, she placed a repaired field recorder, new battery, new tape, inside a weatherproof box labeled "Leave a Story, Take a Story." Visitors could speak memories, then listen to others, feeding the forest a steady diet of presence instead of absence. Dusk settled violet. She clicked record one last time. My name is Lena Ashley Brooks. I was lost, but I found myself in a song. If you feel the forest listening, Answer with your truest voice. It will listen back, kindly, so long as we remember each other. She set the recorder down and walked toward the trailhead, breath forming clouds of silver. Behind her, branches swayed. Ordinary wind, no whisper. But as she disappeared through the gateway, a single note drifted, soft, human, unmistakably hummed. Not a warning, not a summons, just the lullaby, carried by pine scent and moonlight, promising the forest had learned to sing with its people, not against them. And in that shared harmony, the Black Forest finally fell silent, in the safest, most peaceful way silence can ever be. The end.